The first century was a time of immense change, expansion, and tragedy across the world. This time period included the height of the Roman Empire, the emergence of Christianity, significant developments in China and India, and various technological advancements. It was defined by powerful rulers, major wars, and cultural transformations that would shape the course of history. One of the most influential events of this period was the life and crucifixion of Jesus, which led to the rise of Christianity. Born in the late 1st century BC, Jesus preached in the Roman province of Judea and was crucified under the rule of Pontius Pilate around 30 to 33 AD. His followers, including figures like Peter and Paul, spread his teachings, leading to the formation of Christianity, which would later become one of the world's major religions despite persecution from Roman authorities. Speaking of which, in the Roman Empire, this century saw the transition from the rule of Augustus, the first emperor, to a series of successors, including Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. Augustus died in 14, and Tiberius took over, ruling until the year 37. His reign was marked by political intrigue and an increasingly autocratic rule. Caligula followed, but was infamous for his erratic and cruel behavior, leading to his assassination in 41. In 69, known as the Year of the Four Emperors, Rome experienced civil war before Vespasian stabilized the empire and founded the Flavian dynasty. His son, Titus, later oversaw the destruction of Jerusalem in 70, a defining moment in Jewish history, leading to the dispersion of Jewish communities. In China, the Han Dynasty continued its dominance, with Emperor Wang Ming briefly seizing power in 9 and establishing the Shen Dynasty. His radical reforms, including land redistribution, led to widespread dissatisfaction, culminating in his downfall and the restoration of the Han Dynasty in 23. The later Han rulers expanded trade along the Silk Road, facilitating cultural exchanges between China, India, and the Roman Empire. In India, the Kushan Empire rose to prominence, playing a crucial role in spreading Buddhism across Asia. Technological and scientific advancements also characterized this century. The Romans made remarkable contributions to engineering, perfecting the use of concrete in structures such as aqueducts, roads, and amphitheaters, including the construction of the Colosseum, which began in 72. The Chinese made significant progress in papermaking, an invention that would later revolutionize communication and record-keeping. This century also witnessed devastating tragedies, as in 79, Mount Vesuvius erupted, destroying the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum, preserving them under layers of ash for future archaeologists. The Jewish-Roman War between the years 66 to 73 led to the fall of Jerusalem, the destruction of the Second Temple, and the displacement of the Jewish population. Ultimately, the first century was defined by the power of empires and the spread of major religions. The second century was a time of relative stability in some parts of the world, specifically within the Roman Empire, while other regions experienced major conflicts, cultural advancements, and shifts in power. This century is often associated with the height of the Roman Empire, the expansion of trade across Asia, and significant developments in philosophy, science, and engineering. However, it was also marked by devastating wars, plagues, and the decline of certain dynasties. The Roman Empire, under the rule of the 5 good emperors, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, reached its peak in territory and economy. Trajan, who ruled from 98 to 117, expanded Roman control into Dacia, which is now modern-day Romania, and Mesopotamia. However, his successor Hadrian chose to consolidate rather than expand, strengthening Rome's borders by constructing Hadrian's Wall in Britain around 122. The reign of Marcus Aurelius, between the years 161 to 180, was plagued by constant warfare, specifically against Germanic tribes and the Parthian Empire. His death marked the end of the Pax Romana, a long period of relative peace and prosperity for Rome. One of the most significant disasters of the 2nd century was the Antonine Plague, taking place between 165 to 180, and it was likely caused by smallpox or measles. It devastated the Roman population, killing millions, including Emperor Lucius Verus. The decline in population weakened the Roman economy and military, making it harder to defend against external threats. In China, the Han Dynasty began to decline due to political corruption, power struggles, and peasant uprisings, such as the Yellow Turban Rebellion in 184. This rebellion, led by Taoist religious leaders, sought to overthrow the government but was eventually crushed. However, it severely weakened the Han Dynasty, leading to its eventual collapse in the 3rd century. During this time, trade along the Silk Road flourished, strengthening cultural and technological exchanges between the East and the West. Meanwhile, India saw the continued dominance of the Kushan Empire, which played a crucial role in spreading Buddhism. This empire, under rulers such as Kanishka the Great, supported Buddhist missionaries and artists, leading to a golden age of Buddhist art and literature. This period also saw advancements in mathematics and astronomy in India, laying the foundation for future discoveries. Technological advancements in this century, including improvements in Roman engineering, such as monumental buildings like the Pantheon in Rome being constructed. Chinese scholars made progress in steel production, and paper became more widely used in China. The 2nd century was defined by the peak and slow decline of the Roman and Han empires, the spread of major religions, and significant global trade. The 3rd century was a period of crisis and transformation in many parts of the world, especially in Rome and China. Other regions saw the rise of new powers, shifts in trade and culture, and significant wars that reshaped the political landscape. One of the defining aspects of this century was the crisis of the 3rd century between the years 235 to 284 in the Roman Empire. After the assassination of Emperor Severus Alexander in 235, Rome experienced a near-constant state of civil war, with over 25 emperors rising and falling in quick succession, often through violent means. This instability was worsened by external invasions from Germanic tribes, Persian forces under the Sasanian Empire, and economic decline due to inflation and plague. The empire was temporarily split into 3 parts: the Gallic Empire in the west, the Palmyrene Empire in the east, and the core Roman Empire. Order was eventually restored when Emperor Diocletian took power in 284 and initiated reforms that strengthened the empire for the next century. Meanwhile in China, the mighty Han dynasty collapsed in 220, leading to the Three Kingdoms period, one of the most famous and romanticized eras in Chinese history. The 3 rival states, Wei, Shu, and Wu, competed for dominance, engaging in numerous battles and strategic alliances. This period saw the rise of legendary figures such as Cao Cao, Liu Bei, and Sun Quan. The Three Kingdoms era was marked by military innovations, including improved crossbows and naval warfare, but also led to widespread destruction and population decline. In Persia, the Sasanian Empire, founded in 220 by Ardashir I after overthrowing the Parthians, emerged as a dominant power in the Middle East. The Sasanians engaged in repeated wars with Rome, capturing and humiliating Emperor Valerian in 260, which was one of the most shocking defeats in Roman history. This empire also became a center for Zoroastrian culture and administration, influencing the development of governance and military tactics in the region. India witnessed the decline of the Kushan Empire and the rise of smaller regional kingdoms. The spread of Hinduism and Buddhism continued, with Indian scholars contributing to advancements in astronomy and mathematics. The Gupta Empire, which would later usher in a golden age, began to rise toward the end of this period. Despite all the chaos, trade along the Silk Road persisted. With that being said, the 3rd century was ultimately a time of fragmentation and crisis, but it also set the stage for future rebuilding. The fall of great empires, military conflicts, and cultural exchanges during this century laid the foundation for new political systems and philosophical ideas that would shape the world in the centuries to come. The 4th century was a pivotal period marked by significant transformations, specifically in the Roman Empire, the rise of Christianity, and the shifting power dynamics in Asia and Europe. One of the most important events of the 4th century was the reign of Constantine the Great, who ruled the Roman Empire from 306 to 337. Constantine is best known for his conversion to Christianity and for making it a favored religion in the empire. In 313, he issued the Edict of Milan, granting religious tolerance to Christians and marking the beginning of the Christianization of the Roman Empire. Constantine also made significant administrative reforms, notably relocating the capital of the Roman Empire from Rome to Byzantium, which he renamed Constantinople. This strategic move in 330 shifted the center of power eastward and contributed to the rise of the Byzantine Empire, which would become a dominant force for centuries. After Constantine's death, the Roman Empire experienced further religious and political changes, with Emperor Theodosius I eventually making Christianity the official state religion in 380 and banning pagan practices. While the Roman Empire was undergoing a religious transformation, it also faced growing external threats, specifically from Germanic tribes, such as the Goths, Vandals, and Franks. The Battle of Adrianople in 378, in which the Visigoths defeated and killed the Roman Emperor Valens, was a significant turning point. In the east, the Sasanian Empire continued to flourish, with rulers like Shapur II strengthening Persia's military and political power. The Sasanians engaged in repeated conflicts with the Romans, especially along the eastern frontier, and maintained a complex relationship with the Christian and Zoroastrian communities within their territory. Shapur II's reign also saw the expansion of Persian influence in Central Asia. China, after the collapse of the Han dynasty in the 3rd century, was divided into several competing states, leading to the chaotic Three Kingdoms and Jin dynasty period. By the 4th century, the Jin dynasty attempted to reunify China, but internal conflict and pressure from nomadic groups, such as the Xiongnu and Shanbei, weakened their hold. This led to the 16 Kingdoms period, where northern China was fragmented into various states ruled by non-Han Chinese rulers. In India, the Gupta Empire, established around 320 by Chandragupta I, began to usher in a golden age of Indian culture, science, and political stability. The Guptas made advancements in mathematics, including the concept of zero, and excelled in art, literature, and astronomy. Hinduism and Buddhism continued to flourish under their rule, and Indian influence spread across Southeast Asia through trade and cultural exchanges. Technologically, the 4th century saw the continued development of Roman and Byzantine engineering and the construction of massive churches, such as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, reflected the growing influence of Christianity. The 5th century was a time of dramatic change, especially because this period saw the end of ancient Rome's dominance in the West and the emergence of medieval societies that would shape the coming centuries. One of the most defining events of the century was the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476. Rome had been weakening for decades due to internal instability, economic decline, and relentless attacks from various barbarian groups. The Visigoths, under their king Alaric, famously sacked Rome in 410, which was a shocking event that symbolized the empire's vulnerability. The Vandals followed with another sack of Rome in 455. The final blow came in 476, when the Germanic leader, Odoacer, overthrew the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, marking the official end of the Western Roman Empire. This event led to the fragmentation of Western Europe into smaller Germanic kingdoms, setting the stage for the medieval period. Meanwhile, the Byzantine Empire remained strong under rulers like Theodosius II and Leo I. Theodosius II oversaw the construction of the Theodosian Walls in Constantinople, which would protect the city for centuries. Christianity continued to gain prominence in the rise of monasticism, with figures like Augustine and St. Patrick spreading Christian teachings, playing a crucial role in shaping European culture. The 5th century was also marked by the expansion of the Huns under Attila, who terrorized both the Eastern and Western Roman empires. Attila led devastating campaigns across Europe, reaching as far as Gaul, which is now modern-day France, and Italy before his sudden death in 453. After his death, the Hunnic Empire quickly collapsed, but his invasions had already weakened Rome and contributed to its fall. In China, the Northern and Southern dynasties period began in the year 420, with this time being characterized by political fragmentation after the fall of the Jin dynasty. Buddhism continued to spread throughout China, influencing art, philosophy, and governance. The Indian subcontinent saw the continued reign of the Gupta Empire, which experienced both cultural flourishing and eventual decline due to invasions by the Huns. Technological advancements during this century included improvements in Chinese metallurgy and military technology, specifically the use of stirrups, which revolutionized cavalry warfare. The 5th century was a turning point in history, marking the transition from the classical world to the early medieval era. The fall of Rome and the shifting power dynamics across Eurasia defined this century and set the foundation for the Middle Ages. The 6th century saw the expansion of multiple empires, religious transformations, devastating plagues, and cultural achievements. One of the most influential figures of the century was Emperor Justinian I of the Byzantine Empire, who ruled from 527 to 565. He sought to restore the former glory of the Roman Empire, launching military campaigns to reclaim lost territories in North Africa, Italy, and Spain. Under his general, Belisarius, the Byzantines temporarily regained control of much of the western Mediterranean, including the conquest of the Vandal Kingdom in North Africa in 533, and the Ostrogothic Kingdom in Italy during the years 535 to 554. However, these gains were short-lived due to ongoing wars, economic strain, and the devastating outbreak of the Justinian plague. This plague broke out in 541 and lasted for several years. Believing to be an early outbreak of the bubonic plague, it devastated the population of the Byzantine Empire and beyond, killing millions and weakening the empire's ability to maintain its military campaigns. Justinian also left a lasting impact through his legal and architectural achievements. His most famous legal contribution was the Justinian Code, which became the foundation of modern legal systems in Europe. Architecturally, he commissioned the construction of the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. In Western Europe, the remnants of the Roman world were reshaped by new kingdoms. The Frankish kingdom, under Clovis I and his successors, expanded its control over much of modern-day France and Germany. The Visigoths solidified their rule in Spain, while the Anglo-Saxons continued to settle in Britain, displacing the native Romano-British population. The Lombards migrated into Italy in 568, establishing a kingdom that would last for centuries. In the Middle East and Persia, the Sasanian Empire reached its height under Khosrau I between 531 to 579. He reformed the military, expanded infrastructure, and engaged in wars with the Byzantines. In Asia, the Northern and Southern dynasties period in China ended with the rise of the Sui dynasty in 589, which reunited the country after centuries of division. Buddhism continued to spread across China, Korea, and Japan, influencing art and society. Technologically, China advanced in metallurgy and agriculture, while the spread of papermaking and silk production strengthened trade along the Silk Road. The 6th century was defined by religious transformations, deadly plagues, and the early foundations of medieval societies. These developments set the stage for the further evolution of global civilizations in the centuries to come. The 7th century was a transformative period marked by the rise of Islam, the expansion and conflicts of major empires, significant technological advancements, and shifts in global power dynamics. This century saw the decline of long-established states and the emergence of new political and religious forces that would shape the medieval world. In 610, Muhammad, a merchant from Mecca, began receiving revelations that led to the formation of Islam. Over the next 2 decades, he spread his message across the Arabian Peninsula, facing resistance from the Quraysh tribe in Mecca before eventually conquering the city in 630. After his death in 632, the Rashidun Caliphate, led by his close companions, rapidly expanded Islamic rule across the Middle East, North Africa, and Persia. The Byzantine Empire, which had been a dominant power for centuries, faced significant challenges during this period. Emperor Heraclius led a series of wars against the Sasanian Empire, reclaiming lost territories in the early 7th century. However, both the Byzantines and Sasanians were weakened by prolonged conflict, making them vulnerable to the newly emerging Islamic forces. After a decisive battle at Yarmouk in 636, the Byzantines lost control of Syria, Palestine, and Egypt to the Rashidun Caliphate. The Sasanian Empire, under Yazdegerd III, was completely overrun by the Muslim armies in 651, marking the end of Persian rule and the beginning of Islamic governance in the region. In China, the Tang dynasty was established after the fall of the Sui dynasty. Under rulers like Emperor Taizong from 626 to 649, China experienced military expansion, economic growth, and cultural flourishing. The Tang dynasty promoted Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism while strengthening the imperial examination system, which shaped Chinese bureaucracy for centuries. In Europe, the post-Roman kingdoms continued to develop. The Visigoths consolidated power in Spain, while the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms in Britain grew stronger. The Frankish kingdom, under Dagobert I, saw the continued rise of the Merovingian dynasty. In the British Isles, Christianity spread, with figures like Saint Aidan and Saint Cuthbert playing key roles in converting local populations. In South Asia, the Indian subcontinent was divided among various regional powers. The Chalukya dynasty and the Pallava dynasty were dominant in southern India, engaging in constant warfare. Buddhism and Hinduism continued to flourish, with major temples and religious centers being constructed. Technological advancements included improvements in agricultural techniques, shipbuilding, and warfare. The spread of paper from China to the Islamic world laid the foundation for the later intellectual boom in the Middle East. The 7th century was a period of monumental change, with the rise of Islam, the collapse of old empires, and the emergence of new political and religious structures. The 8th century was a period of significant change and expansion across the world, with this period seeing the formation of political entities and religious movements that would shape the medieval world. One of the most dominant forces of the 8th century was the Islamic Caliphate, which had rapidly expanded since the previous century. The Umayyad Caliphate, ruling from Damascus, reached its territorial peak, stretching from Spain in the west to India in the east. In 711, Muslim forces crossed into the Iberian Peninsula, defeating the Visigoth king Radek at the Battle of Guadalete. This conquest established Islamic rule in Spain, leading to the creation of Al-Andalus, a center of culture and learning. However, the Umayyads faced internal struggles, and in 750, the Abbasids ushered in the Islamic Golden Age, with advancements in science, mathematics, and philosophy. In Europe, the 8th century was marked by the rise of the Carolingian dynasty. Charles Martel, the Frankish ruler, achieved a significant victory at the Battle of Tours in 732, halting the northward expansion of the Umayyads into France. His grandson, Charlemagne, began consolidating power, laying the foundation for what would later become the Holy Roman Empire. The papacy also grew in influence, specifically after Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne as emperor in 800. The Byzantine Empire, under emperors like Leo III, successfully defended its territory from Arab invasions, specifically during the Second Arab Siege of Constantinople in 717. Leo III also initiated the controversial policy of iconoclasm, banning religious icons and sparking internal religious conflicts that would persist for over a century. In China, the Tang dynasty remained the dominant power. This empire experienced a golden age of literature, art, and technology. However, in 755, the Anlushan Rebellion broke out, leading to a devastating civil war that lasted until 763. This rebellion weakened the Tang dynasty and led to millions of deaths. In Japan, the Nara period between 710 to 794 saw the establishment of a centralized government modeled after the Chinese system. Buddhism became increasingly influential, and the construction of the Great Buddha at Todaiji symbolized the fusion of religion and state power. Technological advancements included improvements in paper manufacturing, medicine, and engineering, and the development of Arabic numerals, which originated from Indian mathematicians and were transmitted through Islamic scholars, began to spread. The 8th century was a time of expansion, conflict, and intellectual growth, with these events setting the stage for the further evolution of medieval societies across the world. The 9th century was a period of political unrest, cultural transformation, and technological progress across the world. Major empires experienced both growth and decline, new kingdoms emerged, and intellectual advancements laid the groundwork for future developments. The spread of religions such as Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism also played a crucial role in shaping societies. One of the most powerful empires of the 9th century was the Abbasid Caliphate, which ruled much of the Islamic world from its capital in Baghdad. The Abbasids continued the Islamic Golden Age, making advancements in science, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy. Scholars such as Al-Khwarizmi, the father of algebra, and Al-Razi, a pioneering physician, made significant contributions. However, the empire faced internal fragmentation, and independent dynasties, such as the Tulunids in Egypt and the Saffarids in Persia, began to assert control. The Abbasids also suffered from external threats, including the rise of the Byzantine Empire under Basil I, who launched successful military campaigns against Muslim territories. Speaking of which, Basil I restored stability, with the Byzantine Empire seeing a religious revival following the end of iconoclasm in 843. Leading to a flourishing of Byzantine art and culture. In Europe, the Carolingian Empire, founded by Charlemagne, continued to dominate the political landscape. Charlemagne's son, Louis the Pious, struggled to maintain unity, and after his death in 840, his three sons divided the empire through the Treaty of Verdun in 843. This division created the foundations for modern France, Germany, and Italy. Meanwhile, the Vikings became a major force in European history. Norse seafarers from Scandinavia raided and settled in various parts of Europe, including England, Ireland, and the Frankish territories. The Viking incursions led to the formation of new political entities, such as the Danelaw in England. The British Isles saw continued struggles between Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and Viking invaders. One of the most notable figures of the century was Alfred the Great, King of Wessex, who successfully defended his kingdom against Viking invasions and implemented important military, educational, and legal reforms. His efforts helped lay the foundation for the unification of England. In Asia, the Tang dynasty in China continued to decline due to internal rebellion and economic struggles. The Huang Chao Rebellion, between 874 to 884 severely weakened the dynasty, leading to its eventual collapse in the early 10th century. Meanwhile, Japan entered the Heian period, which was a time of cultural refinement with the emergence of classical Japanese literature. Technological advancements of the 9th century included improvements in shipbuilding, metalworking, and the development of early mechanical devices. The spread of papermaking technology from China to the Islamic world helped facilitate knowledge exchange. The changes from the 9th century laid the foundation for the medieval world and influenced the course of history for centuries to come. The 10th century was a transformative period marked by the fragmentation of major empires, the rise of new political powers, religious developments, and significant cultural and technological advancements. In Europe, the once mighty Carolingian Empire had disintegrated into smaller feudal states, leading to the rise of distinct nations such as France and Germany. The Holy Roman Empire was officially established in 962, when Otto I, the Duke of Saxony, was crowned emperor by Pope John XII. Otto's reign marked the revival of imperial authority in Western Europe, leading to a closer alliance between the church and the state. Meanwhile, the Vikings, who had terrorized Europe for centuries, began to settle in places like Normandy, where they integrated into local societies and converted to Christianity. The Byzantine Empire experienced a resurgence during the 10th century under the Macedonian dynasty. Emperors like Nicephorus II, Phocas, and Basil II strengthened the empire, reclaiming lost territories from Muslim rulers. The Byzantines achieved military successes in the Balkans and the eastern frontier, pushing back the Abbasid Caliphate and expanding their influence over the Slavic world. Basil II, known as the Bulgar Slayer, waged a series of wars against the Bulgarian Empire, eventually securing Byzantine dominance in the region. The Islamic world remained a center of scientific, cultural, and economic activity. However, the once unified Abbasid Caliphate had fragmented into competing regional powers. The Fatimid Caliphate rose to prominence in North Africa and established Cairo as its capital in 969, marking the beginning of a powerful new Islamic empire. Meanwhile, the Umayyads of Al-Andalus, which is now modern-day Spain, reached their peak under Abd al-Rahman III, who declared himself caliph in 929 and transformed Cordoba into a major center of learning and culture. In Asia, China was experiencing a period of division known as the Five Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms between the years 907 and 979, following the collapse of the Tang Dynasty. In Japan, the Heian period continued, characterized by the rise of the samurai class and the development of classical Japanese literature. The 10th century also saw important technological advancements, as the spread of papermaking technology from China to the Islamic world facilitated the growth of education and bureaucracy. The 10th century was defined by the political restructuring of major civilizations, military conquest, and cultural achievements. It laid the groundwork for the powerful kingdoms and empires that would shape the medieval world, setting the stage for the feudal age in Europe, the continued expansion of the Islamic world, and the reunification of China under the Song dynasty in the early 11th century. Speaking of the 11th century, if you would like a part 2 where I discuss the next 10 centuries from the 11th to the 20th, leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on anything I discuss in this video, and let me know if you would like more videos like this one. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.